Given the sheer volume of misinformation that proliferated on the internet during the presidential elections of 2016 and 2020, you would think that social media companies would be extra vigilant about combating falsehoods on their platforms this time around. But we learned over the last few weeks that instead they're opening up the floodgates. As we approach the 2024 election, big tech companies are actually rolling back critical safeguards against misinformation on social media. Late last week, YouTube announced it will stop removing videos that spread false information about the results of the 2020 election. They're going to just leave them up there. In doing so, they're reversing the policy they put in place just after the 2020 election, claiming now that it could, quote, have the unintended effect of curtailing political speech without meaningfully reducing the risk of violence. That does not make a lot of sense. In other words, to protect the free speech of election deniers, they're apparently willing to amplify the kind of falsehoods that led to January 6th. Meanwhile, the social media company Meta has restored the Instagram profile of anti-vaxxer Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who was suspended from the platform in 2021 for spreading COVID misinformation. According to Meta, that's because Kennedy is now an active candidate for president of the United States. So I guess if you want your account to be reinstated, you can just announce you're running for president. Of course, Kennedy's bid for higher office has literally nothing to do with the veracity of his claims. This also comes after Elon Musk dismantled similar protections at Twitter, restoring banned accounts and otherwise loosening restrictions on misinformation. So here's the thing. The steps these social media companies are taking will inevitably blur the lines between fact and fiction during an election that promises to flood the zone with misinformation. Not only that, but foreign adversaries like Russia are more likely than ever to interfere in our democratic process. Here's what former FBI Director James Comey said about that just last week.
Vladimir Putin does not want Joe Biden to be president of the United States for reasons that I hope the American people see, because he acts in our national interest. He would very much like Donald Trump to be president again, because Donald Trump is, for reasons I still can't explain, very, very fond of Vladimir Putin. And so they will find ways to interfere. I hope our intelligence community is equipped to respond, maybe better than we did in 2016, but they'll come for this election.
So what should the media be telling the public about how to protect themselves or how to watch for that? What would you wish people were doing out there?
I wish people were taking a breath and a beat before accepting something that they see online, especially rumors about people, or I don't know what it'll be over the next year, but documents that have suddenly been discovered breathlessly. Take it all with a grain of salt, knowing that folks are looking to mess with you.
Joining me now is Ben Collins, senior reporter for NBC News, who spends a lot of his time studying mis and disinformation online. And basically, when I want to know what the heck is happening in this space, I look up what Ben's saying about it. So I'm grateful he's here with me. So, Ben, I just wanted to start just to remind people of why these policies were changed in the first place after the 2020 election. Why did the social media companies feel the need to safeguard the public at that time from misinformation?
Sure. So let's back up to 2016 when, the Russian government funded a troll farm, an actual, a space in St. Petersburg where they hired people to cosplay as Americans and stir up all sorts of stuff. At one point, they had a Black Lives Matter protest directly across the street from a white pride protest. In Florida, they set up with a couple of Facebook events in St. Petersburg, Russia. So that's why this was set up. And what they did over the next few years is from a lot of pressure from, at that point, bipartisan pressure from Congress and from academics who said, we need to know what's actually going on in these black boxes at Facebook and Twitter and places like that. We need to know what's actually happening and who is saying what they're saying. They set up these, what they would call election war rooms, but over time, they allowed data from the back end of these companies, basically actual speech from these companies to be synthesized and analyzed by academics. Now, that's all turned off. That's the change here, is what we're getting after years of this GOP talking point that they're taking away your free speech and all this stuff. We're getting actual less free speech. We're getting actual less speech. We have no idea what's happening on Facebook or Twitter going into this next election, and that's because of lobbying from the GOP over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, and also what's startling here, and we don't talk about this enough, is that Russia or other foreign actors could also be intervening or planning to intervene in our election. I didn't hear that just from James Comey. I heard it from Senator Chris Murphy, and we don't talk about it enough. So what is very head-scratching right now is why now? Why did these companies, you said lobbying from some Republicans, but why are they arguing now that this is the moment to roll back these policies?
Because, first of all, the lobbying from the Republicans worked, frankly. It's more politically tenable for them to stop being yelled at by the GOP when, you know, the left doesn't have the similar sort of fight to try to get this information out there, because it's a little bit more esoteric to be like, yeah, what we want is open API access. Like, that's not a thing you yell at Congress, right? Whereas on the right, they can say, you know, I want to be able to say whatever I want, even if it's slurs and all this stuff. So, like, that lobbying worked. But also, they have high-profile people on their side now. Jack Dorsey literally endorsed RFK Jr.
Yeah.
He is a big name in the tech space. Elon Musk, same deal. He wants his whole thing is to be able to say a bunch of very crazy stuff. He's posting literal Nazi memes on Twitter recently. So it helps him personally. It helps that narrative. And also it's cheaper. You know, if you can say, well, Elon Musk is doing this at Twitter and you're at Meta or anywhere else, TikTok, you can just deprecate these very expensive teams that were committed to something that may not have helped your bottom line at all, right? The idea that there is misinformation being spread on your platform. You probably don't want that out there, but these teams were discovering that internally at Facebook and all these other places. Now that those are gone, it's back to becoming a black box, and it's cheaper to behave that way.
So because it is confusing as to why Jack Dorsey and other tech officials or prominent officials are endorsing RFK Jr. And you're saying it's because they like the fact that they want. They're embracing not his conspiracy theories, or tell me a little bit more about why you think the tech community is coming behind him.
With RFK Jr., and Jack Dorsey specifically, Jack Dorsey's always sort of been in that headspace of, I would say far left conspiracy theories that have now, through the horseshoe, merged with the far right about anti-vax skepticism and things like that. So with Jack specifically, he kind of opened the floodgates. Jack has always been in that space, but maybe Elon hasn't, maybe all these other people haven't. And RFK is nothing if not a grievance machine against the establishment. And Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk, who have lost a lot of money over the last year through Twitter, are now very angry at the establishment because the platforms that they have developed have not been amenable to advertisers. So, that sort of fight, it's, the worry with RFK is that he has the same sort of fight the man spirit that Trump did a few years ago. The worry, of course, with, I would say, anybody who likes a vaccine could be that he could catch fire in the same way.
So the reason we want to talk about this is to be clear-eyed, and you are very good at waking people up about what they should be alarmed about. Given all these factors, should we be concerned that 2024 could be worse than 2016 and 2020 in terms of misinformation and disinformation that's spreading online about candidates and the election?
I think it'll definitely be worse than 2020. 2016, we don't really know. But I will say, just look to the kids. If you are in Gen Z, if you're a teenager, you've known nothing but lies on the internet your whole life, and determining what is real from that and deducing a vibe based on that. It's going to be a very vibesy election, I will say, because what's real and what isn't, with deepfakes and people using deepfakes to their advantage, it's going to be a very strange time. So look to the kids. They've never known anything but these lies. I don't know if it's going to be as bad as 2016. That was a nightmare. But the goal for a lot of these people in power right now is to confuse you to maintain power. So just be careful.
Yeah, that's the goal of these autocrats as well. Ben Collins, thank you so much for your time and keeping us all alert to these issues.